Hello, and welcome to our Derdack video series. Today we're going to go over the Enterprise Alert high availability setup and options that are available inside of our Enterprise Alert program. So first off, I want to go ahead and show up the setup. So here I am on a brand new machine, and I already have downloaded my Enterprise Alert 9 install file. So now I want to go ahead and set this up, but I want to set it up in such a way as to use the high availability. So this is actually going to be my secondary backup machine. So in this case, what I need to do is I need to go ahead and run the installer in advanced mode so I can point it to a specific database. So in order to do that, what you first need to do is open up a command prompt window. And we want to go ahead and run this as an administrator. And just as in the case of all of our Enterprise Alert software, you want to make sure that you are currently logged into this machine as a user that has database owner access to the Enterprise Alert database. So now that I'm logged into the machine, next thing I want to do is I want to actually use the installer to install the program. So we need to navigate inside the command prompt to our folder where we have the installer downloaded. So in that case, I'm going to navigate to my folder. And from here, you'll see here that I have my ea9.exe inside of this folder. So now we want to go ahead and run this. So what we do is we type in the file name, and then we do a space, a dash, and then the letter A for advanced mode. Once we click on enter, this is going to start the installation process in advanced mode, allowing us to select our options, including where our databases are located and if we want to update them or not. Because in the case of a high availability setup, your second machine that you run the install on would not update or install the databases as they're already there. So we just need to put in the input path to show where the databases are. Once the install kicks off, the first thing we're going to see is a box listing all of the software that is a prerequisite for the Enterprise Alert software. So once this is installed, you can just go ahead and click on the next button to launch into the next portion of the installer. Next up, we actually have to choose our run as account. So in this case, I'm just going to go through the local system and then the network service. And here's where we actually input our SQL string to connect to our SQL Server database. So we just need to input the string to connect to your SQL Server, the name of your SQL Server database for your Enterprise Alert, and then if you use SQL authentication, then you need to input that, or you can just use your Windows authentication. And then you'll notice down here that we actually build the string using the information input inside of these pages. Once all of this is entered, what we need to make sure that we do check is on our high availability machine, we need to make sure we check this box to do not create or update the databases because they'll already exist and we don't want to try to recreate something that's already there, and we won't need to update them because they're already up to date. So once all of that is input, then we just click on the install button and the system will actually go through the process of installing our SQL databases. So I'm going to go ahead and choose my SQL server name and then make sure I check the box and then go ahead and click on the install button. And now we'll actually see the system go through the install process and actually go into the Enterprise Alert setup, where we can just click through the boxes with the appropriate information and proceed through with the install. Now, while that's installing, let me go ahead and go over to our other machine so we can actually see the high availability options in progress. Okay, as we see here, I actually have two different tabs, both loaded up with Enterprise Alert, but I'm accessing two different machines to do it. I have my test machine and my Apo3 machine here. So if I actually scroll down to my system icon, and then click on the high availability tile, this is going to load up my high availability computers and my options. We'll see here that right off the bat, my primary server currently is my EA9 test server, which my Apo3 is actually my backup server. And it's in the suspended mode because currently I'm using an active passive, which means that if at any point in time my primary server becomes unreachable, my backup server will automatically kick in and take over as the primary server, and then this EA9 test would then be put into the suspended status and would become my number 2 at that point. And that's what the failback enabled option here does. When this checkbox is checked, this will automatically fail back to the next machine in the list for you without any implementation on your end once it's set up. And then the next option down here is the connectivity of the passive node. You have a couple options here for drop your communication connections or to keep the connections alive. And this allows you to keep your notification channels active on the backup suspended machine even when it's in its suspended state. That just enables for a quicker relaunch of the system when it does come time for it to become the primary system. Next up in my HA mode, I also have another couple of options. So we have the node cluster, which is an active-active. And when we choose this, both of our systems actually will become active at the same time, which means if you have a load balancer in the process, then you can actually send your data to whichever machine is in the next list for your load balancer, but both machines will be actively receiving your data from your users and from the systems as it comes in, and then the machine with the most availability will create the alert, send the alert out, and your users will log into that one. However, both machines are active and any user at any time could hit either one of your two machines. My third option in here is the failover system with source and channel clustering. And what this does is this works the same way as the failover system that we had over here with the active passive. However, this allows you to do clustering on both your event sources and your notification channels to allow them to have the option to have multiples of both on both of your systems, which means you could have a VoIP 1, a VoIP 2, a VoIP 3, and a VoIP 4 across both systems, and they would be the same channels on both, allowing you to have multiples while still using a active passive system for when one goes down, the other one will kick in and just immediately be able to start working and receive and handle events and calls as they happen. At any point in time, if you're using our active passive systems, you can come into this high availability screen and actually change which system is active just by coming up here and clicking on the play button next to your suspended system. What this is going to do, and I'll do it here, this is actually going to resume my APO3, so it's going to turn that on to the running status, and it's actually going to turn my EA9 to a suspended status because I'm in the active passive and only one should be running at any one point in time. So if we give this a little bit of time and then we click on the refresh button, and we'll actually see these statuses swap as we do here, letting you know that now the APO3 is the current running system and my EA9 test system is the suspended system. So this has been a brief, quick rundown of our Enterprise Alert high availability installation and settings for your high availability servers. Thank you and have a nice day. Goodbye.